And finally, we're to the point where production control needs to tell somebody how to actually make that part. Once we have all of the purchased parts in house and in stock, they can write a work order for it. All right, so let's take a look at it. This blue section that you're seeing up in the upper left, this blue section is sort of about the product itself. What's the description? What's the product part number? And if there's a product code, sometimes those are two different things. You're just going to put in, I want you to do this again for one pinion gear. One pinion gear. So you'll take a pinion gear, give the product part number, and skip the product code. But you do need the revision, the rev date, and approved by. Maybe you made some changes to that, and you're on revision B now. And this way, whoever is going to be out on the shop floor will pull up their drawing and make sure that their drawing matches what you see here in the revision area. Now, this part over here, we're not going to worry about it too much, but somebody's always keeping track of how quickly and efficiently the shop is running. So there's going to be a date entered and a date required, and then when somebody finishes this all up and turns this back in, somebody will put that date completed on. And you can imagine that this date complete better be in front of the date required, the required date. It should be earlier. And if not, there's some sort of problem. The other thing that we do is, even though this is a work order that counts up hours, some machines are heavily loaded. And you'll see that this is entered on a such and such a date, and it looks like there's plenty of time to get it done, but that particular machine that's getting it done on is, used up on other things for 2 weeks. And so they also look at this as the backlog on time on that machine. So these three are very important to production control. They're not so important to us right now, but it's good that you see it and good that you know that those are there. Okay, so that's the blue section. The yellow section tells people how much, and at each step of the way, okay? So each function you can see here may have some inspection requirements. What are those functions? Pull stock, machine setup, machine, clean, inspect, return to stock. That's sort of the minimum, right? And so you can imagine that during machining, something might go wrong and you ruin one of the parts. And so you would say at that point something was wrong, and you would note that on this lower part. But during inspection, maybe everything looked like it went right, but a couple of pieces were wrong. So this is where a good production control manager would, let's say they needed 1, and they know something always goes wrong, so they're going to make 2. And let's say we completed 2 of them, but 1 was accepted and 1 was rejected. That means my productivity equals the number accepted divided by how many were complete. That's a pretty bad productivity. Okay, and then somebody's going to sign it off, whoever the shop lead or foreman is. But that's how that's going to get used. Now, this was a very simplistic one, right? But it gives you the idea. Now, you're going to just leave this blank also. I just want you to know about it, that it's there. You are going to put in the product description. You are going to put in the product part number, the revision date, and the approved by. All the rest of this you just need to know about. Now you are going to come down here, and Work Center ID is really like pull stock. That's a Work Center from the stock room. And you would, right here, give them the bill of materials. See, BOM with whatever part number you gave it. And I'll talk about these labor hours in a little bit. So they have to have the bill of materials to be able to pull stock. Machine setup is usually, let's see, I need to get that reformatted, which is okay, I can do that. There we go. Let's get them all about that same size. This is where you would tell them what machine to do it on. Is it a lathe? Is it a mill? Is it a EDM machine? So this would describe the machine. Now for these gears, that would be done on a mill. And you could even call it a certain type. But we'll just say it's on the CNC mini mill. So you can use that, where you're going to take that stock over to some bench sitting next to the CNC mini mill and put it on a bench. And then you're going to go to the mini mill and actually set the machine up. How are you going to hold those little gears and clamp the little gears, and you know, which tool bits, mills are you going to use? Is there a special type of oil to use on it, or are you just using air? There's all sorts of things to go into that machine setup, and so you got to give people time for that. What comes after that, you're actually going to do the machining, and that's going to be on the CNC mini mill again. And then you're going to clean it. Now, sometimes all of these things are in one location and stuff like that. But now I'm going to call it, it's a Garnet Bead Blast. 5 minutes. And you can do this. You can just basically copy what I'm doing here. Okay, but that basically cleans it, gets all the oil off, gets any burrs or sharp pieces off. And garnet is a non-ferrous material, so it will not induce rusting. So it's often used on these. Okay, and there's all types of garnet that you would actually call out. And then maybe there's an inspect. And we want to know, inspect, you know, is there a checking fixture or this or that? And maybe there's an ID number for it that you can just drop it in and check it and make sure that it's okay. And finally, there's return to stock. And again, you would say, see the bill of materials to get the part number that it goes back in on. You're going to pull out a blank and put in your final product number. Now, for these hours and everything, I don't really care what you put down. Okay, just make something up. Let's make everything be 0.1 hours. Right? That would be 6 minutes, which is actually a really long time. for these. Okay, but that's okay. Now you have to do a little bit of work. We're gonna say you're always gonna have one in. You're gonna start with that because we just want to make one. Actually, we're gonna make two. All right, we have a quantity 1 required, and we're gonna make 2, and that's all you can do on this. Okay, because it's the machinist that has to keep going with the rest of it and fill it in. Okay, and if there's inspection requirements, we're going to say yes. If you had a drawing that you would inspect to, you could do that. So that is how you get one of these work order templates done. That's sort of the last of the big 3 document production control documents.